Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing and PR, the editor of Punchline Magazine, and welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers, where each week I invite a panel of experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's going on in their business sector and their own individual businesses, and finally what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. I've got a fantastic panel today for our new series that's kicking off today. We've got Neill Ricketts, the CEO of Advanced Engineering Materials Group, and my surrogate brother from Versarien. We've got Ian Mean, Gloucestershire Director of Business West and ex-editor of the Western Daily Press, Citizen Echo, and ex-Daily Mirror man. Lots and lots of other newspapers. I know you wear lots of hats. Finally, we've got Sam Holliday, Development Manager of the Federation of Small Business and ex-editor of the Bath Chronicle. Funny enough, I work for all these newspapers apart from the Mirror. And finally, not least, but my own fitness coach, although at the moment he'd probably deny it, Paul, my very good friend, Paul Wanford, CEO and founder of Xerlife. Thanks ever so much for joining us, guys, and welcome to Punchline Talks. We'll kick off the papers very, very quickly. I've got the Citizen here. Match abandoned after parents fight. The Western Daily Press, man arrested after petrol station siege. The Times, let's go to the broadsheets. The Times, huge rise in protection from COVID booster jabs. The Daily Telegraph, funny enough, contradicts the story from the Times. Oxford jab professor, we don't need mass boosters. The Guardian revealed ending benefits uplift will hit sickest areas the hardest. That's scrapping the £1,000 a year booster universal credit. The Daily Mail, deadly toll of the remote GPs. I don't know about you, but I haven't been able to see a doctor for absolute bloody months. The Mirror, let's go to the red tops. My family's racist torment, says Rio Ferdinand. The Sun, Katie's tears for Derek. And the Daily Star, as medics are advised to use emojis to talk to their sick patients. Moving swiftly on. Sam, what have you got for us, please? What have you picked out, sir?
Well, it's interesting actually going through all those fronts that, you know, how varied the front pages are today. We haven't got a single story that's dominating, but I want to go back to the Times, actually, the one that you highlighted there, because you've been doing this show for quite a while now, Mark, and I would imagine if you'd have looked into the crystal ball and planned where we'd be in September 2021, you wouldn't have thought the front page would still be talking about COVID. You thought we'd be beyond that now, but I can speak very personally here, because 3 weeks ago, I was completely flat out with it. 3 weeks ago, I got it, I've been double jabbed, I'm extremely cautious. I got it, it knocked me sideways. I mean, first days off work for a decade, and I felt really, really bad. And there was one point I was really, really worried. And I came back to work. I only took about 3 or 4 days off, but I had about 3 or 4 days of feeling wrong before, and I'm not fully recovered yet. But the amount of people I've spoke to, that I know people that have got it or have got it again, and it feels like the Southwest is having a real problem now. So I remember last year, I used to quite watch Point West most nights, and they do the league tables of how many coronavirus cases there are. It's always been quite low around here, but we're right at the top again now. And somebody said that 87 of the top boroughs in the UK with the highest figures are now in the Southwest. And they say that's because so many people have stayed in this part of the world. They've visited the Cotswold, they've visited Bath, they've visited Cornwall, Devon, obviously, and the figures have just risen. So this isn't going away. And this story about should we have extra jabs, should we be jabbing 12-year-olds, it's a kind of reminder that, and this is what's so important to businesses, that small businesses, large businesses, all of them, we haven't been able to get the real big lift off we all hope for. I think when I was talking to businesses earlier in the year, Ian was probably the same with the businesses he deal with, the feeling was, let's get the summer out of the way, September, we're away. And there has been some signs of that. There has been some positive signs, but I'm now hearing people saying to me, okay, if we can just stumble our way to Christmas, then come January, then we're really going for it. So it's a timely reminder really that the battle has yet to be won, but we're getting there. And I want to stay positive. I want to stay confident. I think most businesses are feeling that, but we're not there yet. And it's very frustrating because it's been the most stop-start recovery any of us will ever know. And we're clearly not there yet. So reading that story and then hearing the thing about the Telegraph just reminded me to remind us all that, you know, business still has this as an issue. It hasn't gone away, and it probably won't go away for a while.
No, without a shadow of doubt. I'm glad you're better, by the way, Sam. And as you know, I had COVID really bad as well, and it does really knock you flat. You know, it took me a good 2 weeks afterwards and then I had to do half days as well for quite some time. So, when you've got it, you really, really got it. And also the big thing about it as well, you don't know if you're going to flip. That's what the doctor said. On a knife edge most of the time, it could go either way depending on your
Do you know
health.
what I found interesting, Mark? That, as you do, I mean, I found I couldn't even read much, didn't have any concentration levels, but when I did, I'd go online and there's a lot of information about symptoms. There's a lot of information about how to avoid getting it. There's a lot of information about jabs. There's very little information about what happens when you've got it. And it seems to me you go from it's a mild thing to hospital. And there was just one morning, it was a Saturday morning, when I thought, I think I might need to call an ambulance. I was struggling with my breathing and everything, but I didn't know if I was ill enough. And there's not much information out there. So you can't believe that, can you? I spent 18 months talking about nothing else, both personally and professionally. And then it hits you and you realise you know nothing. You're still at the hands of the health people. But I'm fine now. I haven't still got my sense of taste and smell back, but most people say I didn't have a lot of taste anyway. My music collection may reflect that. But it's tough out there, and I do reflect that in business as well. But I'm just surprised. It's like I say to people, I've had coronavirus, so have I. Oh, so is my mate. He's off at the moment, and I think it's our area, which last year wasn't so badly hit, but we're going through it a bit here in the southwest. I think
now's if you've lost your taste of sense of taste and smell, now's the time to invite you around for tea. Anyway, right, Ian, let's go to you, please, sir. What have you picked out from the newspapers?
Well, my old paper, the Daily Mail, story you mentioned, deadly toll to remote GPs. As a coroner that's linking deaths to a lack of face-to-face appointments. It's impossible, as you said earlier, to get an appointment with a GP easily, isn't it? I just don't get this at all. Government has put out an edict saying that something like 56% of GPs need to see people. They aren't. I think this is a very, very major problem. Lots of people have got the after effects of COVID. The wife has a small problem with a hand. And, she said, I can't, I don't think I'll get into the GP. I said, well, you can't do this over the phone. What do? Take pictures of it and then try and explain this? It's a crazy situation. So there's that situation there. There's also, I'm struck by a story in the Telegraph. French reject Patel's migrant pushback. How bonkers is this, that you actually try to drive back immigrants on floating rafts back to the French coast? I mean, can you really believe it? This ain't going to work at all. There's a mess here. And my bet is that Patel will go. I think we'll have a new Home Secretary in the reshuffle, probably Michael Gove. And one last one in the FT. Eastern European truckers put brakes on return to work in UK. Grant Shapps yesterday made an amazing statement saying all these jobs in the UK for truckers, we can sort that out. No, we can't. The fact is, most have gone back to Europe during the pandemic. The tax regulations and post-Brexit red tape aren't going to alter anytime soon. As a total result, we've got lots and lots of problems in supply chains. People like Neill know that more than I do. This is a major problem that's not going away.
Totally agree. I mean, every single business I talk to have got supply problems. It really is. It's really a tipping point. It really is a tipping point. I can't see it improving one iota. The government doesn't seem to have a plan. They don't seem to have a complete idea of what's really going on in the workplace. And that gives us a fantastic lead over to Neill, because obviously Neill leads in manufacturing. Neill, thanks ever so much for Punchline Talks. Thanks for now, Ian. Neill.
Good morning. I mean, just to balance things up, I've had a couple of things that I've had to see a doctor about this year, and I've been able to see in the forest a doctor straight away. But I think GPs are being, getting mixed messages about what they can and can't do. And I know the doctors in the forest are trying to do the best they can. And as I say, I've been able to see a doctor straight away, but that's not the case all the way across the county or even the country. Sad news this morning. The road outside my house was closed last night, and there was a collision between a lorry and a car, and unfortunately, it's been reported this morning by Xerlife that unfortunately a local man's died. So, thoughts out to the family. Life is really precious, guys, and we've really got to, if anything has been learned over the last 2 years, it's that we have to really embrace life and really appreciate it. I did go with the emoji story as well, but we're going to have to drop that one because that one's already been used. But I was intrigued by the fire inside the space station, the International Space Station. I don't know about you guys. When my fire alarm goes off in my kitchen, I panic. Imagine what it's like being up in space. So that's going to be an issue that we're going to need to resolve over time as we move towards space travel. Mr. Branson and Elon Musk and the rest of them. Moving on to the Forester, I can always guarantee that I'll be able to at least get a story out of the Forester because no one else, if I can actually see
Can't actually see it with your background.
There we go.
Hey.
Trust me, I've got the Forester. Okay, couple of big stories in here. Classic car show in Chepstow on the 12th of September. Looking forward to that. We're out and about a little bit more last night. And I went to the Business Awards for the publication that we can't mention on here. But congratulations to Kalex, which forest firm there, forest firm Kalex. Never heard of them before. What a great! They're making innovative films for packaging. A couple of really, really good forest businesses there last night. Lydney Harbour's getting a new cafe. I will need to invite you down there, Mark. Lydney Harbour, fantastic place to go to. A big write-up in the Forester about the great local schools we've got here. Obviously, back to school this week. No one's mentioned it. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm absolutely shattered. Mark, you look like you went. You're back in school there with your waistcoat on there. Obviously, went to a better school than I did. And the big news, which I can't show you because it won't come up on my screen, is obviously rugby was back, and the greatest team in the world, Drybrook, managed to get a draw on the weekend, 25-25. But also there were some good wins for Lydney and Newark.
I love the way that you can't show the old background because really you're sitting in your garden shed somewhere. That's the problem, isn't it? Really.
I'm actually on a beach somewhere, but let's not.
I doubt it very much. Not in the forest, mate. Anyway, right. I got to go over to Paul. There we go. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, mate.
I didn't get my big story. Mark, you cut me off too early. My big story was Thomas the Tank Engine.
Tell us about Thomas then.
Thomas the Tank Engine. He's horrified parents because he's gone rogue. I mean, I don't know whether it's a result of COVID or whatever, but look at him. He's properly upset. He looks like you on a Monday morning.
He's definitely got a round face like I've got. I can tell you that much. But anyway, that leads us very nicely to Paul, who's my coach, who's going to get my.
Rumour is there was a segue there, Mark. Rumour is Thomas the Tank has used this exercise bike more than you have. On to Paul.
He probably has used the bike. Actually, Paul was around my house making sure that the saddle was right, the pedals were right, weren't you, Paul?
I was indeed. And have you been on it?
Twice. It's supposed to. Look, no, I've been on it 4 times at £1,600. That's 400 quid a time. Now I will go on it because. Anyway, moving on. This show's not about me. It's all about you, Paul. Right, let's talk about what's in the newspapers, please, mate.
Interestingly, the big one for me was the same time we last spoke, which was Emma Raducanu, who's just made it to the finals of the US Open after what happened to her in Wimbledon.
She's won.
Sorry?
She's amazing story. Yeah.
Unbelievable. 18 years old, and you saw what happened to her at Wimbledon, and the dedication that is involved at any level of sport is unbelievable. But to get to that level at the age of 18 is just super great for British sport, great to see. And then on the flip side of that is what you were mentioning in the Citizen, wasn't it, today, about the fight that broke out?
That's right, yes, there was a fight in the Citizen.
Was that the Tuffley-Cleve game?
That's right, yes. I've heard various rumours on this story, whether it's true or not, actually. That one of the parents is kind of disputing it slightly, the volume of punchiness, if you want to call it that. You want to diss them.
But my son plays for in the same league. They weren't there the weekend. He plays for Winscoop, but they're a under 15s football game, and you just think, it's kids' football. What is going on? And then you see what happened at the Poland game as well, just before halftime with the scaffold. You think, you need to pull this back a bit. These are kids playing football, and it's getting to the point where the parents are so irate that breaks into a scuffle or an argument or everything else. Let's just remember these kids are under 15. They've had a hell of an 18 months where they haven't been in and out of school properly. They haven't been able to do it. Let them have some fun. Let's not take it so seriously that it gets to the point where the adults fight it. It just shocks me.
Well, that goes back to your particular sport now, because obviously you've had all these people locked down. You run a gym. Are people getting into it a lot more, or has it been a slow trickle back for you, Paul?
Well, like Sam mentioned earlier, I think we're all hoping that we would all be bouncing back quicker. And we haven't, I haven't, but reading some of the stuff that's come out in the fitness publications over the last couple of days, there is good signs of recovery, but it's not as quick as we want it to be. The growth of some of the outdoor stuff, like activities like paddleboarding and things like that, these individual sports that are outdoors, has been very quick to kind of explode. But getting the numbers back up in the gyms and getting all of that going again is, like many of the industries at the moment, a bit slower than we all hoped. But there are definitely signs. I've got more trainers coming back. I've got more inquiries coming through, but the summer was obviously a quiet time in my industry because everyone, like yourself, Mark, ignores calls and disappears for the summer, and then they come back, and September is always a good time for us. So hopefully the next few weeks we should really start to see that escalate. Fingers crossed.
Now, Paul, let's just quickly talk about your business itself. Whereabouts are you based? Where is the gym? How many people or trainers do you have there? And tell us a little bit about Xerlife as well.
But the gym, I run a company, two companies. The fitness team is the personal training company based underneath the Prince of Wales Stadium in Cheltenham. And pre-COVID, there were 12 trainers down here along with me. And then I mentioned before, COVID hit and a storm. So we were shut permanently for about 15 months. But now there's 6 trainers come back. And my client base has been fantastic over the period of time. They're all back in the gym now as well, working well with me. So like I said, the recovery is there, which is good. And then Xerlife, which I set up pre-COVID, is an online health and wellbeing application just out there to make people's lives as easy as possible to get into eating healthier, tracking your own health stats in line with our awesome NHS, and understanding a bit more about how to exercise and just get yourselves back all your parameters, if you like, your variables back into the green where you should be. There's too many people that have been drifted out into the red in their BMI, their waist to hip, their body fat, their body weight, everything, just trying to get everyone back to where they should be and just make their lives a bit easier. And it's moving in the right direction. I've got a few corporates on board now, so quite a few individuals who are doing really well with it, and then some of the businesses, their teams are getting right into it and working well together to make sure they're all moving in the right direction.
So you actually go to corporate companies, or do they come to you? How does it work for a business then, Paul?
So basically, I can go and sit down with a business owner and talk to them about rolling out Xerlife as a health benefit for all their employees, and then set up a part white labelled entrance for them, and then all of their employees can sign up and use it, and then I just invoice the company. I mean, the idea is it's a volume game. I'm looking for as many people as possible, but it's cheap. It works out at £1.99 a month per person. The idea is to help as many people as possible, from the corporate world back down to the individual and anywhere in between.
I think it's a great idea, mate, and I have used it. I have, and life. That's the trouble, isn't it? It's life just gets on top of you, and it's very.
Oh, massively, yeah.
Anyway, let's. Thanks ever so much for that, Paul. I've got to go back to Sam now. Sam, obviously, you talk to a lot of small businesses, a lot of small companies. What's it like there at the moment? Give us an overview, please.
Yeah, well, as I say, I think there is confidence levels are high. Every time we survey or even just talk to people, we feel that things are moving in the right direction. But it is. We've all mentioned supplies. I'm hearing that all the time at the moment. Supplies and staffing, the 2 S's, seem to be the biggest problem. And also cash flow. As Paul hinted there, not all the customers that people had pre-COVID necessarily come back again. People are quite cautious about spending quite a lot. And obviously this week, and it all kind of ties in with what we've been talking about, we've had talk of the new increase to national insurance for employers, which is a bit of a body blow. If you look at the front of the eye as well today, I think it's one you didn't point out, Tory Ange over the cuts to benefits, and suddenly we're hearing now all that money that went out to help COVID, they're going to start pulling it back in. But I think for the business community, we'll feel particularly upset about this, because you know, they've weathered so much over the last 18 months, to then see their costs rise at a time when they're having to pay more to get staff in very often cases than get them at all. They're struggling with suppliers or paying more for supplies. So these kind of things do not help. Let's put it as bluntly as that. But I wouldn't want to pretend that things are bleak, because in my experience, and I'm sure we all find this, small businesses are incredibly resilient. They're incredibly adaptable. And I would guess if the 5 of us had got together in March, April, May last year and said, what percentage of businesses do you think will be here if this thing lasts 18 months? We'd have all put some pretty low figures, but more businesses have survived. Lots of new businesses have started. We've seen that through our own membership. We've seen a lot of new people joining because they've started new businesses. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be confident. We've just got to get through yet another little stage if we can. And then, I don't know, I don't want to be as gloomy as to say 2022's kickoff, but I do want to, you know, reiterate that it isn't all rosy. And just one final point, because Paul did mention it about sport, just a massive hats off to our Paralympians, if I may. We watched every night, we watched coverage of it. And do you know, we finished second in the medals table, above the Americans, above the Russians, above every other European country. And I think that says a fantastic signal to the world about how we help our people with different physical and mental illnesses to fulfill their sporting dreams. And do you know what? I'll say this one final thing.
There's a lot of final things you say, isn't there?
I haven't bought a lottery ticket for years, but I'm going to start buying them now, because so many of the athletes, if it weren't for the lottery, I wouldn't be here. And one canoeist who won a gold medal pulled out a battered lottery ticket and said, I take this with me everywhere to remind me of the sacrifice people make to get me here. So I'm now a born-again lottery ticket buyer. I'll never be a millionaire, but I might help somebody win something at sport.
Yeah,
that is fun.
By the time you bought a bloody lottery ticket. So
well, I think so. Life's a lottery, Mark.
Life is definitely a lottery. And talk about national insurance, that leads us very nicely to Ian, because Ian is passionate about the NHS. You've got various different hats in the NHS, haven't you, Ian? And my big worry, I don't know about you, is this money all going to disappear down the plug hole for vast amount of consultants being paid huge amounts of money? What do you reckon, sir?
Well, Mark, yeah, I agree with you. My worry is this, that this amount of social care to me is I've always called it the ticking time bomb. We all in our lives will experience this in some way, whether it's people, friends having to sell homes, whatever. Let's actually look at this carefully. Sam is right. This is quite a bombshell for business. And you've said this earlier this week, Mark, to me about your small company like yours, the tax situation as a result. My problem is just that. I think that there's so many, I mean, the waiting list way over 5 million. Some people are saying that within a year this could double. There is no chance that this money, which is earmarked a percentage of social care, is going to actually reach those people that need it most. County councils are virtually bankrupt with this. The money is just extraordinary. So I think what is needed here is a root and branch reform of the National Health Service. I know, you know, I'm now sort of regional chair for 12 hospital trusts for organ donation. These are massive employers. In Gloucestershire, the NHS is the biggest employer. And that's the case in every place. Now, if you had a company like Neill's, but, you know, in every county in this country, it would be, I would hope, very efficient. I'm not saying the NHS is not efficient. I'm just saying lots can be done. And I fear we're going to be coming back in a year's time and saying, well, all the money's going. Where's it gone?
Ian, I hate to say it, right? I actually think the NHS is very inefficient. You just have to spend some time in hospital and actually watch what goes on there. It doesn't take, you know, not being funny, it doesn't take very much to notice it at all. And they actually, look, they do a fantastic job. We all think they do a fantastic job. We love our nurses, we love our doctors. They've saved my life twice. You know, they've helped my daughters be born. But my God, they just pour money down the drain. I'm very sorry. And this is what the big problem is. Neill, let's go over to you. Thanks, Ian. Neill, Ian. You got to switch your thing back on, Neill.
Yeah, no. I was wondering who you were talking to, whether it was me or Ian, but there's nothing unusual there, is there, Mark? So, I mean, Do you know what? I think you're absolutely right. I think not just the NHS, but lots of things, border control, all of these things, we kind of haven't embraced change for so long. And I think someone said the other day that this is the next revolution. And I actually think it's an opportunity for an innovation revolution. I think we've got to try to take things apart and put them back together much better than the Victorian way that we're doing them, whether that's education, it's health, it's local policy. I mean, it takes 500 people to make a decision in Gloucestershire because of the structure of the parish councils, the district councils, and the county councils. And so for me, I think let's really embrace the change, and let's make lots and lots of change. Big story I could have mentioned this week was that we're using graphene in roads, to try and improve roads. We haven't really changed the structure of roads in so long that it's pitiful. Same with concrete, same with textiles, we're seeing an evolution or a revolution in terms of cars. I was talking to someone yesterday. They were saying this is the last petrol or diesel car they'll ever buy because they just won't ever make those cars again. And you can see that the EV revolution is coming. Why can't cars, like I said in the lead story today, unfortunately, someone has died. As an engineer, I know I could potentially have saved that person, but we're too worried about putting driver systems on cars, or, there's not the right regulation in place to make people, safety aware. Driving unautomated petrol cars is not part of our future, and we need to embrace that. And I honestly do believe that a lot of the control systems, I drive a Tesla, and the reason that I drive a Tesla is not because it's electric, not necessarily because it's great for the environment, although that's a really good benefit. It's because it's so bloody safe. And ultimately, what do we want innovation to do? We want it to improve what we are doing and making us much safer than what we are now. So anyway, that's my speech, Mark. Thank you very much.
And just so you know, there's a story in one of the papers that does actually mention that the government is looking at long last any new build or any new commercial build should have solar panels and electric carports. Can't see that here, Ian. Can you?
Electric car chargers for all new homes in England. That's in the Times today.
There we go. And why haven't they done that years ago? All these houses they're building, why the hell haven't they made it so that all the houses point a particular way into the sun, and so they maximize the opportunity for solar panels? I just don't get it. Anyway, we're kind of running out of time, unfortunately, guys. Last thing, Neil.
I was just going to say, engineers and scientists have got the answers to these problems. We can stop COVID, but it will take us 5 years to get through the regulation. There are solutions and options to solve most of the problems we have in our life, and they all get stifled by regulation and the need to satisfy bureaucracy. And I think we've got to change that if we're going to really kind of move away from this climate crisis.
And last thing, I'd like to talk to you very some other time after this about your graphene in the roads, please. Obviously, it's a great story there.
Good story.
Yeah, and obviously, I'd like to, bearing in mind you're sitting with three journos here, we'd all be going, "Whoa, that's a great story!" straight off the bat. Paul, I'm going to go over to you very, very quickly. I'm going to have to rush through, guys. What have you chosen from this week's punchline that caught your eye?
The ProCook success. I know the CEO very well, Danny O'Neill, and just reading that it's done so well over the last 25 years and building it up ready to sell it. I love to hear success in our county is superb.
And it's Neil that Danny O'Neill that actually introduced me to you.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah.
There we go. And nice guy too. Nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy.
Hasn't gone to his head. I really, really like him. Got a lot of time for him. Ian, what have you picked out in this week's punchline?
I picked out my favourite subject, apprenticeships. E.G. Carter yesterday, taken on a record number of new apprenticeships. E.G. Carter are real ambassadors for apprenticeships over many, many years. Certainly, time I've been here, last 20 years. It's fantastic. Not only carpentry apprentices, your story's saying, 3 carpentry apprentices, 6 management trainees. Fantastic.
No, good stuff. Great PR shot too. It's nice to get something that's actually decent, if we don't mind me saying. Sam, what have you picked out in this week's punchline, please?
Well, without embarrassing you, Mark, I actually think it might be impossible to embarrass you. I think the piece you wrote about dying that you went live on with yesterday, which I'd seen in the magazine and which you'd shown me privately before, I thought was really, really powerful and really honest. And I think the reason was that we rarely ever talk about this subject. When I did my journalism training, Ian will probably remember this, I went to Richmond College and I had to do a feature on something unusual. And that's all the brief was. So I spent 12 months, I spent 3 weeks at an undertaker's. And I just saw the way they worked. And undertakers, nobody wants to talk to them. They find it hard to build up relationships. They find it hard to build up with friends. And it's because nobody wants to talk about dying. So I thought what you did was very honest, very moving, and extremely well written. So I'd recommend anyone to look at it. I thought it was a really good piece.
Thanks, Sam. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Neil, last piece. What do we pick?
Last piece for me was the upgrade to the railway station. I think that's a fantastic move. I think we've got to look at more mass transportation and making that much easier for people. I would like to say that we need to celebrate these businesses. All the businesses that we've spoken about. ProCook, they're all award winners. We just don't celebrate the businesses that we've got in Gloucestershire to the highest level. There's a lot of people working really, really hard under really, really difficult conditions, and hats off to them. If we've been through what we've been through for the last 2 years, there's nothing that we can't get through in the future, I think.
Totally agree. The stories that caught my eye this week is the Gloucester Food Dock, the £3.5 million investment. These guys have stuck true to it. Ken Elliott and Sarah Mansfield from developers Ladybird Gate Estates. I met them both. Really, really fantastic what they're going to do down there. Another story was Bailey's Paints, been trading for 120 years. They've been bought up by a Merthyr Tydfil company. You don't hear that very often, I can tell you. The Brewery Quarter have got a new restaurant, Vietnamese restaurant called Po. I think I've got that right. The one that I'm really excited also is the upgrade to Gloucester Railway Station. And finally, congratulations to my dear friend Nick Brodie, who has done fantastically well moving his business from Gloucester to Hunt. He's had record sales, record second-hand sales for his cars and vans. He's doing extremely well. He's the chairman of the Pied Piper Appeal, and he's a nice guy. And
that's what happens when you move to the Forest of Dean, Mark.
That's what happens to you when you invest in the Forest of Dean. That's right. And finally, actually, what really made my week this week was I went to the cathedral for a little shing-ding there as a thank you, and the Dean was doing a speech. But one of the managers for Hey Presto was a really nice lady I met when she was 15 years old. She came to work with me as an intern, a work experience for 2 weeks. Her name's Amy Genders. She's now 26. She's married. She's got a daughter. She's married. She's pregnant. And it was just absolutely fantastic to meet Amy again after all these years and see what a success she's made of her life and what a lovely, lovely, lovely person she is as well. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
Thanks.